In the hushed chambers of an American courtroom, a moment unfolds that will shatter every heart present and rewrite the rules of justice itself. A 10-year-old girl stands alone before the bench, trembling but defiant, about to defend her family against the full weight of the legal system. What she reveals in the next 30 minutes will leave seasoned lawyers in tears and prove that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most devastating truths. This is the story of Sophia Ramirez, the bravest child America has ever seen. March brings an ordinary Tuesday morning to Providence Municipal Court in Rhode Island. Judge Frank Caprio, a man whose compassion has become legendary in legal circles, scans his morning docket with practiced eyes. Then he stops. His finger freezes on one case file. The Ramirez Family, traffic violations, unpaid fines, 4120, limited English. Nothing about this case screams extraordinary. Nothing hints at the emotional earthquake about to strike his courtroom. Judge Caprio has seen thousands of cases, heard every excuse, witnessed every form of human struggle. But he has no idea that in mere minutes, his understanding of courage will be forever altered. The courtroom buzzes with its typical morning energy. Defendants fidgeting nervously, attorneys shuffling documents, the air thick with anxiety and resignation. At exactly 10:45 a.m., the bailiff's voice cuts through the murmur. Case number 2847, The People versus Ramirez Family. Every eye turns toward the defendant's entrance. And then silence. Complete, absolute, breathtaking silence. Instead of adults approaching the bench, a tiny figure emerges from the gallery. She can't be more than 4.5 feet tall. Dark hair falls past her shoulders, partially obscuring a school uniform pressed with painstaking care. In her small hands, she clutches a manila folder against her chest, like it contains the secrets of survival itself. Sophia Elena Ramirez, 10 years old, and utterly, impossibly alone at the defendant's table. Behind her, nearly invisible against the courtroom walls, two figures hover in the shadows. Maria Ramirez, a woman whose eyes dart around the room like a trapped animal searching for escape routes. Carlos Ramirez, his gaze locked on the floor, as if eye contact itself could trigger deportation. They are terrified, paralyzed, silent. But their daughter walks forward with a determination that seems to defy the laws of childhood itself. Her chin rises, her spine straightens. She moves toward Judge Caprio's bench, with the bearing of someone 3 times her age, carrying burdens no child should ever know. Judge Caprio leans forward, his experienced eyes narrowing with concern and confusion. In 3 decades on the bench, he has never seen this. A child advocate, a 10-year-old lawyer, a daughter forced to become her parents' voice in the machinery of American justice. "Good morning," he says, his voice automatically softening to match the impossibility of the situation. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl's response comes clear and strong, with only the faintest trace of an accent marking her family's journey. "My name is Sophia Elena Ramirez, Your Honor. I am here to speak for my parents, Maria and Carlos Ramirez." Every document on Judge Caprio's bench suddenly becomes irrelevant. He sets them down completely, giving this extraordinary moment his absolute attention. "Sophia, how old are you?" "I am 10 years old, Your Honor. I will be 11 next month." The courtroom gallery leans forward collectively, sensing they're witnessing something unprecedented. Court reporters pause mid-stroke. Attorneys stop their whispered consultations. Even the bailiff stands straighter, recognizing that history is unfolding in real time. "Can you tell me," Judge Caprio asks gently, "why you're speaking for your parents today?" Sophia takes a breath that seems to draw courage from the very air itself. Her knuckles whiten around her folder. "Your Honor, my mama and papa, they work very hard. But English is difficult for them. They are afraid they will say something wrong and cause problems for our family." She pauses, and in that pause lives an ocean of unspoken fear. I study English in school, and I understand better, so I come to help them. Judge Caprio's expression transforms. 30 years of professional composure crack as he recognizes the profound, devastating love that has driven this child to stand before American justice itself. I see. And you understand these are traffic violations your father received? Yes, Your Honor. Sophia's voice grows stronger, as if each word builds her confidence. My papa works at the restaurant from 6 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, and then he cleans offices from 5 until midnight. The mathematics of desperation, the arithmetic of survival, 18-hour workdays, a man driving on fumes, both literal and metaphorical, trying to build an American dream from the rubble of fear. Judge Caprio studies the documents before him with new eyes. Expired registration, broken taillight, parking violations. What appeared to be carelessness now reveals itself as exhaustion. What seemed like disrespect for law now shows itself as the inevitable collision between human limits and impossible circumstances. Sophia, these preparations you've made are very impressive. Did someone help you organize all this? For the first time, the girl's composure wavers slightly. Pride flickers across her young face. No, Your Honor. My teacher, Mrs. Johnson. She taught me about being responsible and preparing for important things. I stayed after school for 3 days to make sure everything was perfect for my family. 3 days. A 10-year-old child sacrificing recess, sacrificing playtime, sacrificing childhood itself to master the complexities of the American legal system. While her classmates played dodgeball and traded Pokemon cards, Sophia Ramirez studied traffic law and prepared a defense strategy. Judge Caprio glances beyond Sophia to where Maria and Carlos stand frozen, watching their daughter perform a miracle they cannot fully comprehend. Their faces display a heartbreaking mixture, pride at her courage, shame at their inability to protect her from this burden, terror at what her words might trigger. They have entrusted their fate to their 10-year-old daughter. Judge Caprio does something he rarely does. He stands from his bench and walks around to the front, abandoning the symbolic barrier between judge and defendant. He approaches Sophia, not as an authority figure, but as a human being recognizing another human being's extraordinary courage. Sophia, he says, kneeling to her eye level, what you're doing for your family takes tremendous bravery. Can you help me understand why your parents are so afraid to speak in court? The question hangs in the air like a blade suspended by thread. Sophia looks back at her parents, and in that glance lives a universe of love and protectiveness that seems impossible for her age. Your Honor, my mama and papa, they came to America to give me and my little brother Miguel a better life. Her voice drops slightly, carrying the weight of a secret too dangerous to speak loudly. But they are very afraid of authorities, because they think if they say something wrong, we might have to leave. The courtroom's collective breath catches. Everyone present suddenly understands the stakes. This isn't about traffic fines. This has never been about traffic fines. Judge Caprio's voice becomes impossibly gentle. Sophia, are your parents here legally in America? The question detonates like a bomb in slow motion. Sophia's hands tighten on her folder until her knuckles turn white. For a heartbeat, she is simply a frightened child facing forces beyond her control. Then she straightens her spine and becomes something else entirely, a warrior defending her family against annihilation. Your Honor, my mama and papa are working very hard to fix their papers. They have a lawyer, Mr. Peterson, who is helping them. But the process takes a long time, and they are afraid that any trouble, even small trouble, might hurt their case. She reaches into her folder with shaking hands and produces a business card and several official-looking documents. Here is Mr. Peterson's card. And here are the papers showing my parents are in the middle of applying for. She struggles with the legal terminology, her 10-year-old vocabulary failing her at the crucial moment. For asylum status, the final words drop like stones into still water, sending ripples of understanding through every witness. Asylum. Not immigration, not work visas, asylum. These aren't economic migrants chasing better paychecks. These are refugees fleeing something unspeakable. Judge Caprio accepts the documents with reverent hands, understanding that this child has just entrusted him with her family's most dangerous secret, their most vulnerable truth. Sophia, he says carefully, you said it was dangerous in your country. Can you tell me what that means? Sophia's voice becomes quieter, but somehow more determined, as if speaking these words requires every ounce of her courage. Your Honor, in our country, my papa saw bad men do bad things, and he told the police. She pauses, and in that pause lives a nightmare. But the bad men found out, and they said they would hurt me and Miguel if my papa didn't stop talking. The courtroom absorbs this revelation in stunned silence. Carlos Ramirez, exhausted restaurant worker and office cleaner, holder of 2 minimum wage jobs, driver of an aging car with expired registration, is also a man who stood up to criminals, a man who chose conscience over safety, a man who sacrificed his homeland to protect his children from the consequences of his integrity. Suddenly, those traffic violations tell a different story. The story of a man so exhausted from working 18-hour days to keep his family fed in a foreign country that mechanical problems and bureaucratic requirements slip through his fingers like water. The story of fear so profound that even a parking ticket feels like a deportation order. Sophia continues, her voice gaining strength as she advocates for her family. Your Honor, we had to leave everything. Our home, our family. My abuela, my grandmother, she is still there. Mama cries at night because she misses her. She pulls another document from her seemingly bottomless folder, a report card covered in perfect grades. Your Honor, while we wait, I go to school every day and I study very hard. My mama cleans houses during the day and my papa works 2 jobs. We pay taxes and we follow all the rules. But sometimes the car rules are confusing when you are tired from working so much. Judge Caprio examines Sophia's report card. Straight A's across every subject. Perfect attendance. Teachers' comments that read like love letters to education. Exceptional student. Natural leader. Helps other students. This isn't just academic achievement. This is evidence of a family fighting with every breath to build an honest life in America. This is proof that while Carlos and Maria might struggle with English and legal bureaucracy, they have raised a daughter who embodies every value America claims to cherish. Sophia, Judge Caprio says, his voice thick with emotion. Your grades are excellent. What do you want to be when you grow up? For the first time during the entire proceeding, Sophia's face lights up with pure, unfiltered joy. I want to be a lawyer, Your Honor, like Mr. Peterson. I want to help other families who come to America for safety. I want to make sure no other little girl has to come to court to speak for her mama and papa because they're afraid. The emotional impact of this statement ripples through the courtroom like a shockwave. Every person present suddenly understands they're witnessing not just courage, but prophecy. They're seeing the birth of a future advocate for justice, forged in the crucible of her family's desperation. Judge Frank Caprio takes a long moment to compose himself. His eyes glisten with barely controlled emotion. In 30 years on the bench, he has dispensed justice in thousands of cases. He has seen humanity at its worst and occasionally at its best. But never has he encountered nobility like this, a 10-year-old girl bearing the weight of her family's survival with grace that would make seasoned attorneys weep with inadequacy. When he finally speaks, his voice carries the wisdom of decades and the heart of someone who recognizes true heroism when it stands before him in a carefully pressed school uniform. Sophia, I want you to turn around and look at your parents. Sophia pivots to face Maria and Carlos, who watch with expressions of anxious love, their entire future concentrated in their daughter's small hands. Now, Judge Caprio continues, I want you to tell them in Spanish that they don't need to be afraid in my courtroom. Tell them that Judge Caprio says they are welcome here. Sophia's eyes widen with surprise so profound it borders on disbelief. Hope, that most dangerous of emotions, flickers across her face. She turns to her parents and speaks rapidly in Spanish, the words tumbling out in a rush of relief and possibility. As her translation reaches them, Maria Ramirez begins to cry. Not the silent tears of fear she has been suppressing, but sobs of release, of recognition, of finally being seen as human beings rather than problems to be solved or threats to be neutralized. Carlos places a protective hand on Sophia's shoulder, his own eyes brimming with tears he has probably been holding back for years. Since the day he witnessed crimes he couldn't ignore, since the moment threats turned his homeland into a prison, since the agonizing decision to uproot his family and flee to a country whose language he couldn't speak. Judge Caprio addresses the parents directly, speaking slowly and clearly, so that even through the language barrier, his meaning penetrates. Mr. and Mrs. Ramirez, please come forward. Hesitantly, still holding on to Sophia as if she were a life raft in churning seas, they approach the bench. Their movements carry the weight of people expecting punishment, deportation, separation, all the horrors that have haunted their dreams since arriving in America. Sophia, Judge Caprio continues, please tell your parents that I understand why they came to America. Tell them that protecting your children from danger is what any good parent would do. As Sophia translates, both parents nod through their tears. They are hearing something they probably never expected to hear from an American authority figure. Not judgment, but understanding. Not rejection, but acceptance. Judge Caprio isn't finished. Tell them that working 2 jobs, paying taxes, and raising a daughter who gets straight A's and wants to become a lawyer, that's exactly the kind of family America needs. The translation barely leaves Sophia's lips before Maria covers her face with her hands, overwhelmed by the simple gift of being recognized as worthwhile, as wanted, as American in all the ways that truly matter. Judge Caprio returns to his bench, but his transformation is complete. He is no longer judge and defendant. He is protector and protected. He is America at its best, meeting immigrant dreams at their most vulnerable. Sophia, I'm not just dismissing these traffic violations. He pauses for dramatic effect, and in that pause, the future pivots. I'm going to do something I've never done before. He picks up his phone right there in open court, before dozens of witnesses. He dials. He waits. And then, Mr. Peterson, this is Judge Frank Caprio. I have the Ramirez family in my courtroom, and I want to personally recommend their asylum case. This family represents everything that's right about immigration to America. Sophia's hand flies to her mouth. Maria sobs harder. Carlos stands frozen in disbelief, unable to process that an American judge is calling their lawyer to advocate for them rather than against them. But Judge Caprio isn't finished rewriting the rules of justice. Sophia, I want you to come back to my courtroom in 1 year. Not for any legal trouble, but to show me your report card and tell me how your family is doing. Will you promise me that? Sophia nods so vigorously, her dark hair flies around her face. Yes, Your Honor. We will come back to show you we are good Americans. Judge Caprio's response comes quietly, but carries the weight of prophecy. You already are good Americans, Sophia. You already are. The courtroom erupts. Applause thunders from gallery to bench. from attorneys to defendants, from court staff to waiting families. People are standing, clapping, crying, witnessing what American justice looks like when it's guided by compassion rather than merely law. The Ramirez family embraces in the center of the courtroom, Maria, Carlos, and Sophia, holding each other as if they might disappear if they let go. Their nightmare has transformed into a dream of acceptance and possibility. What happens after Sophia's court appearance proves that one moment of courage can trigger a cascade of compassion that reshapes entire communities. As the family exits the courtroom, still dazed by their unexpected vindication, they find themselves surrounded, not by immigration officers or police, but by people whose hearts Sophia's bravery has cracked open. Mrs. Chen, an elderly Chinese-American woman who had been waiting for her own traffic case, approaches with tears streaming down her weathered face. Through Sophia's translation, she offers Maria additional housecleaning work. "Your daughter's courage shows what kind of family you are," Mrs. Chen says, clasping Maria's hands. "I want to help." Dr. Williams, a local pediatrician who happened to be in court for a minor traffic matter, approaches Carlos. "Anyone who raises a daughter like Sophia deserves every opportunity to succeed," he says. "I'm opening a new clinic and I need someone trustworthy for building maintenance and patient transport. The job is yours if you want it." But the most touching response comes that evening when Mrs. Johnson, Sophia's teacher, arrives at the Ramirez home carrying a stack of books that reaches her chin. "Sophia," Mrs. Johnson says, her eyes bright with pride, "I've spoken with the principal and the school counselor. We want to make sure you have extra support for your college preparation. Your dream of becoming a lawyer isn't just possible, it's inevitable." She presents the books, legal texts simplified for young readers, biographies of Supreme Court justices, histories of civil rights lawyers who changed America. These will help you understand how to help other families like yours. Within a week, Sophia's story spreads through Providence like wildfire. Local news stations compete for interviews. The family appears on the evening broadcast, with Sophia confidently translating for her parents and explaining their journey with the same poise she displayed in court. "My parents are heroes," Sophia tells the reporter, her voice clear and strong. "They saved me and Miguel by bringing us to America. Now I want to help other families feel safe, too." The interview airs during prime time, and the community response is overwhelming. Donations pour in. Job offers arrive. Families reach out offering friendship, English tutoring, and practical support. The Ramirez family, who arrived in America feeling invisible and unwanted, suddenly find themselves embraced by a community that has recognized their value. Mr. Peterson calls with news that accelerates their asylum timeline. Judge Caprio's personal recommendation carries enormous weight with immigration officials. What might have taken years now moves forward with unprecedented speed. Exactly 12 months after her first appearance, Sophia Ramirez returns to Judge Caprio's courtroom. But the transformation is so complete that observers barely recognize the family that enters. Sophia, now 11 and radiating confidence, approaches the bench with her parents walking proudly beside her. No more hovering in shadows. No more fearful glances. They move as a family who has claimed their place in America. "Good morning, Your Honor," Sophia says with a smile that lights up the entire courtroom. "I kept my promise to come back and show you how we're doing." Judge Caprio beams with the pride of a grandfather, witnessing his grandchild's triumph. "Sophia, look at you. You've grown a foot taller. How has your year been?" "Your Honor, it has been the best year of our lives." Sophia hands him her report card. Straight A's again, but now accompanied by achievements that go far beyond academics. "My parents received their asylum status 3 months ago. We are officially safe in America," she continues, her voice ringing with pride. I was elected to student government and I started a club called New Americans, where immigrant children help each other with school and teach other students about our cultures. Carlos steps forward, his English careful but clear, the result of a year of evening classes taught by his daughter. Your Honor, I want to thank you. When Sophia came here 1 year ago, we were afraid. Now we feel American, Maria adds, also in English. Sophia teaches us English every night after homework. She says we must learn so we can help other families who are afraid like we were. Sophia produces another document from her folder, a certificate bearing the Brown University seal. Your Honor, I received the scholarship you recommended me for. I'm enrolled in a summer program at Brown University for gifted students interested in law and public service. Judge Caprio examines the certificate with obvious amazement. Sophia, this is a program for high school students. You're only 11. The program director said my essay about helping immigrant families was so good, they made an exception. Sophia's pride shines through. I wrote about meeting you and learning that judges can help people, not just punish them. She pulls out one final photograph. The Ramirez family with Mrs. Chen, Dr. Williams, Mrs. Johnson, and a dozen other community members who have become part of their American story. Judge Caprio studies the photograph, seeing not just faces, but proof that compassion multiplies, that one act of judicial mercy can ripple outward to transform entire communities. Sophia, do you remember what you said you wanted to be when you grew up? A lawyer, Your Honor, to help families like mine. Judge Caprio smiles with the satisfaction of someone about to deliver news that will change a life forever. Well, I have something to tell you. The Providence Bar Association has created a new scholarship specifically for students from immigrant families who want to pursue law. They're calling it the Sophia Ramirez Future Advocate Scholarship. Sophia's jaw drops. For once, her carefully maintained composure shatters completely. They named it after me? They named it after you because you showed everyone that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right even when you are afraid. Judge Caprio addresses the packed courtroom. Word of Sophia's return has drawn attorneys, advocates, journalists, and community members who wanted to witness the conclusion of this extraordinary story. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 year ago, a 10-year-old girl taught all of us what it means to be American. Not being born here, but embodying the values that make America great. Courage, family loyalty, hard work, and the dream of a better future. He turns back to Sophia. You've kept every promise you made in this courtroom. And now America gets to keep the promise it made to your family. That hard work, courage, and dreams can come true here. Sophia Ramirez's story didn't end in that courtroom. It exploded outward, becoming a symbol recognized across America. Proof of what's possible when courage meets compassion, when fear transforms into hope, when communities choose embrace over exclusion. 2 years after her first court appearance, at age 12, Sophia was invited to speak at the National Immigration Law Conference in Washington, D.C. She addressed a ballroom filled with attorneys, judges, policymakers, and advocates, hundreds of legal professionals who had spent decades in the field. When I was 10 years old, Sophia told the conference, her voice steady and clear, I learned that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means protecting the people you love, even when you are scared. It means trusting that America's promise, that here, courage and hard work matter more than where you're born, is real. The standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes. Attorneys wept openly. 3 law schools offered Sophia guaranteed admission upon high school graduation, with full scholarships attached. Judge Frank Caprio, sitting in the front row that day, later reflected to journalists. Sophia didn't just defend her family that day in my courtroom. She defended the idea that America's strength comes from families like hers, people who risk everything for their children's future, who work 2 jobs and study by night, who believe in our promise even when we've given them little reason to. The Sophia Ramirez Future Advocate Scholarship has now funded legal education for 12 immigrant children. Each recipient commits to providing pro bono immigration services for families in need, a ripple effect of compassion that multiplies with every passing year. Maria and Carlos Ramirez now own a small restaurant in Providence called Esperanza, Hope. They employ other immigrant families and have become informal advocates, helping newcomers navigate American systems with the same courage their daughter once showed in court. Every wall displays scholarships, awards, and photographs celebrating the community that embraced them. Sophia works at the restaurant on weekends when she's not interning at Mr. Peterson's law office. Now 16 and a high school junior, she helps families prepare for immigration hearings with the same thorough preparation she brought to her own family's case years ago. Every family I help, Sophia says, organizing documents with practiced efficiency. I remember being that scared 10-year-old girl. I want them to know that America has room for families who work hard and dream big. I want them to know that sometimes the system works, that sometimes judges see you as human beings, not case numbers. Mrs. Johnson, Sophia's former elementary school teacher, keeps a photograph on her desk. Sophia, at age 10, clutching that manila folder, standing before Judge Caprio with impossible courage. I show this to every new class, Mrs. Johnson says. I tell them, this is what bravery looks like. This is what love for family means. This is what it means to be American. Miguel Ramirez, Sophia's little brother, who was only 6 when his family's fate hung in the balance, is now 10 himself. He recently won his school's speech competition with a talk titled, My Sister, My Hero. Sophia saved our family, Miguel told the audience. She stood up when Mom and Dad couldn't. She spoke when they had no voice. Because of her courage, I get to grow up in America. Because of her, I get to dream. Judge Frank Caprio, now in his 80s but still serving on the bench, keeps his own photograph of the Ramirez family in his chambers. When law students ask him about his philosophy of justice, he points to that picture. That little girl taught me more about the law than 30 years of cases, he tells them. She taught me that justice without compassion is just revenge. She taught me that the families we serve aren't statistics or case files. They're people with stories, with struggles, with dreams that deserve protection. She taught me that sometimes the bravest Americans are the ones who weren't born here. Sophia Ramirez's story proves that courage can arrive in the smallest packages, that families seeking safety and opportunity aren't threats to America. They are America, embodying every value the nation claims to cherish. That sometimes a child's bravery can teach adults what justice truly means. Today, Sophia is applying to colleges with a perfect GPA, leadership positions in student government and debate team, hundreds of hours of pro bono legal work, and recommendation letters from judges, attorneys, and community leaders who watched her transform fear into hope. Her personal essay begins, When I was 10 years old, I learned that being American isn't about where you're born. It's about what you're willing to fight for. That 10-year-old girl who stood trembling before Judge Caprio's bench, clutching a manila folder like a life raft. She didn't just defend her family that day. She defended the American promise itself. She proved that courage, compassion, and community can triumph over fear. She showed that the system, imperfect and often harsh, can still bend toward justice when people of goodwill refuse to look away. Sophia Ramirez walked into that courtroom as a terrified child, carrying her family's survival in her small hands. She walked out as an American hero whose legacy will echo through generations of families seeking safety, opportunity, and the chance to dream. And somewhere in Providence, Rhode Island, A small restaurant serves meals prepared with love by two refugees who once thought America had no place for them. On the wall hangs a photograph of their daughter, 10 years old, standing before a judge, proving that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most powerful truths. This is what courage looks like. This is what America can be.